to the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show. My name is Vanita Lambert, and I'm the host of this show. I have the honor of hosting the show every single week. And today I have with me Dr. Sunji Phillips. She is the CEO of Bryson Associates. She's a friend of mine, and she's my monthly co-host. And she always has some great information to share with us. So thank you for coming back. Welcome back, I guess I should say.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm well.
Good.
I'm well.
Good.
Summer is treating me well. I love the heat. I love it. So I'm
She's from North Carolina. Okay. She likes the heat. I don't. I have too much heat right now. Well, that's a whole nother show, though.
Oh my goodness.
So I think the last time we were here, we did a show with Dr. Sunji and her granddaughter, and it was amazing. I had so much fun.
Yeah,
it was
that
like a
was
little
fun.
mystery show because we didn't know what she was going to do next.
We didn't know
We didn't have a
what
clue.
was going to happen.
And it
She was under the table at one moment. She was on top of the chair. We just went with it.
And I loved it. It turned out to be a really good show. It really did.
Yeah, I enjoyed filming with her.
So you want to just tell our audience a little bit about yourself? I know you're
Okay.
here monthly, but maybe we have some new people tuning in for the first time.
Okay.
So
if you're a new person tuning in for the first time, my name is Sunji Phillips. I am an industrial and organizational psychologist with over 25 years of experience in clinical behavior therapy. And most of my work has been working with adults and children with autism and intellectual and developmental disabilities. So, of course, autism falls under developmental disability. So that's sort of who I am. And over the last 5 plus years, it seems like I just started it yesterday, but it's been over 5 years. I have launched my own business, Bryson Associates, and we've been doing training, just every facet of training. We train parents with children with developmental disabilities. We train staff, and in all different capacities. Developmental disabilities, foster care, veterans, just people workers, corporate. We train nonprofit workers. So, and then we also do some business strategic planning. And so we work with organizations to kind of get their back end together. We monitor for accreditation and things like that. So everything that we do is training staff to build up the organization, training leaders, and then helping them to manage the business.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
and parents as well. We train parents.
Especially parents, because I'm one of the parents she's been training on the side, but she doesn't know it. We are both in the people's business. I do the insurance end of it, and in summary, it's all about improving people's lives in one aspect or another, whether it's with saving money on your insurance or teaching you how to handle a child with, some type of disability.
Absolutely.
So, and I love that. And so we're both passionate about it because it involves people.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And we're passionate about people.
Absolutely. And today we're going to be talking about caring for caregivers.
Yes. Yes. So today we are discussing caring for caregivers, and so what I want to say is we're not going to speak about one facet of caring for caregivers, but just as a whole. Sometimes it is specific for parents of those with disabilities, and other times it's, you get to this point in your life, and that's all of us, and where you get up into your 40s, maybe early 50s, somewhere between, and I want to kind of say 40 plus, 60 under, like somewhere between those 40s, 50s, where all of a sudden you find yourself facing like midlife crisis. That's what you're kind of tossed into. And it's because you're looking at your life and you're seeing that I've lived through possibly half of my life at this point. Everything that I'll be doing from this moment on will be the second half of my life. And of course, most of us, we look and we're like, it doesn't feel like, I can still remember when I was doing things at 12 years old. So, the brevity of life is just something that is almost inconceivable because life is so brief.
It is.
And it goes so fast. One minute you're making a decision about college, the next minute you're making a decision about marriage, the next minute you're making a decision about retirement. And it seems like it just flows just that quickly. So now you have people, like between 45, maybe 60, somewhere around there, and they're facing midlife crisis. So they have parents that are now, whose health may be failing. So they're put in a position to have to take care of their parents. They are raising their children or have already raised their children, putting them through college, seeing them off to marriage, trying like you met my grandbaby,
Yep.
3 years old. So now, her parents are putting their lives together and they need support from us, whatever that may be, if it's assisting with babysitting. And, sometimes you just need people to talk to, when you're beginning your life with someone new. And so you have the grandbabies, you have your parents that need care, you have your children that need care, and now you have the things that are going on at work. And you find yourself kind of thrust into this caregiver role. And that's sort of what I want to talk about today.
Okay.
Yeah, the caregivers. And so, you want to say something?
Caregiving. I was thinking when I first heard you say that, I was thinking long-term caregiving, the physical and mental part of it. But, listening to you, we're all caregivers, and it starts before we even realize it starts. As teenagers, as adults, and just growing into our lives. And even for those of us over 60, we are we are still helping with our parents. And one of the reasons for that is, the transformation of life. People are living so much longer.
Yeah,
there are
absolutely.
people caregiving for their grandmothers, and I mean older people in like their 40s. So that's only 2 generations.
Right.
To be 80 something, the average person is living to like 90, 95.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
that just means you're gonna have to be a caregiver a little bit longer. And just to go off course for just a moment, that's where I come in. You plan to have plans so that you don't have to provide all of the care that your mother or your grandmother or your children may
yes.
need.
Please tell us a little. I want to start with that because that's so valuable.
It
and so
is,
important.
and that's why we connect like this.
Yes, we do.
We're in the people business. So one of the things that I do and is help people plan their lives out. Millennials, Gen Xers, and boomers like myself. And what I try to explain to people is the transformation of life. And I always tell the story about Leave It to Beaver, how everybody was home. The mom stayed home, the kids went to school, dad went out and made he was a breadwinner, and everybody was home watching the Jackie Gleason show at 6 o'clock.
Right.
And that was the end of it until the next day. That
Sounds
doesn't,
wonderful.
And people had a lifespan of like maybe 75 or 80. That doesn't happen anymore. People are living to like 90, 95, okay? The whole transformation of life have changed. When you get home, you have to take your kids to dance lessons, to sports, or to whatever. So if you have an elderly parent that need care, how are you able to work full time, take care of your kids, get them to all of their events, and take care of your parents? That's where the plans come in. And insurance is at the forefront of innovation. They have plans now where a lot of folks think back in the day you had to just spend a fortune on long-term care. There are so many ways that you can get it now. You can get it within a life insurance policy. So if you were to sign up for like an index universal life insurance policy, there is a rider that provides an indemnity, which is money for long-term care. It doesn't call it long-term care, it calls it like accelerated death benefits and chronic illnesses and all these other things. But if a medical professional declare that you cannot perform two or more of your daily living activities, which would be something as simple as dressing. Like if you had rotator cuff surgery, you wouldn't be able to dress yourself, or taking a bath by yourself, getting in the shower might be dangerous, or driving. You can't drive with one arm. So if a medical professional declared that you cannot do two or more of your daily living activities, then that would activate a claim for care. And so the family, your children, your husband, and everybody will always be a part of your caregiving. But I always tell people, you don't have to provide every aspect of it. The bathing, the continence, the clothing, the transportation, everything, because it's too overwhelming and you have a full life. If you were to do that, you would be sacrificing a big portion of your life. So there are plans that you can get and that will take care of that will help you. Even if you are a victim of a stroke or a heart attack, back in the day, you couldn't even think about getting long-term care because the underwriting was so strict. But nowadays, insurance companies realize how so many people were turned down, or how it was just unaffordable to so many people. They've come up with ways to make it affordable and make it accessible because of the change of life.
Yeah.
And so that's where I come in, and I just explain that to them. So you can have a life insurance policy, okay, and it will have like a long-term care rider on it, and you wouldn't pay for a separate policy for long-term care. You would use that policy, and if you unfortunately died and never used the long-term care, then it's just life insurance benefits for your beneficiary. So there's a lot there.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is extremely valuable, and as you're talking, I'm just in my own head, I'm thinking about personal situations, but we can talk about that later.
That's what I always do.
Absolutely. But so I want to, so that's one way in which we can set ourselves up to care for caregivers, because that lifelong or the long-term care, that's bringing people in to assist you. Correct? And that is extremely valuable for people, like I said, in that age group. If you're between 45 and let's say 60-ish, you're not at retirement age. You in most cases still have to work. And so now you're trying to figure out, what are you going to do with your parents during the day while you're at work and the kids are at school? And, and especially if you don't live close to one another. I'm not fortunate to have my mom here in the same city or state with me.
Right.
So, I have to travel to her. So all of these entities, all these variables become a little bit complex. And so now you have someone that is trying to care. And let's just say if your parent is far away from you, you have me that's going down on weekends to visit my mom and set her up for the weekend. Or I'll use even better my dad. He's no longer with us. But we lived in New York. He lived upstate New York, and I lived in New York City. And I was his primary caregiver. That was a lot. It was overwhelming.
Just to travel.
But you never think of it as overwhelming when you're doing it, But what did it mean? It meant that at every moment that I wasn't in my own home caring for my own family, I'm on my way upstate to take care of him. I'm trying to prepare food for him for the next 3 days until I get back. I'm trying to make sure his house is clean. We got a home health aide in that we were paying out of pocket for, and
I know what that cost.
Right.
But.
And so, but we needed to have someone physically there with him, and so now we've got to kind of monitor them, because then when you peek in some cases, they're kind of watching TV, relaxing, and so it's all of that.
Yep. That's when, you have the caregiver do what they need to do, come in, do the laundry, food, transportation, and you have your little nanny cams on your phone. And that's what everyone is doing now, just to make sure that, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. And I don't want to talk about the ugly part of it, but there's elderly abuse. and that's something you don't even think about.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
anyway, go ahead, continue.
So it was a period that you don't even think about until you look back on it, and so you're spending all of your time cooking and cleaning, and of course, there are times I'm cooking from home and packaging it up and bringing it up there. When I shop for my house, I'm shopping for his. I have his groceries in the back of the car, mine in the front, and you have all of that going on. And our topic today is caring for that caregiver. How do you care for yourself as a caregiver? And what I want to say is we have to stop. There has to be a moment when we sit still and we look at ourselves and what is it that we need. Any caregiver should have a system by which they can tap out,
That's hard to do
It
for
is.
a lot of people.
It is.
Like, take yourself, for example.
Right.
When would you be able to do that? When you know you need to cook for the next 3 days or whatever it is, could you just take time out? How do you do that? How do you even begin to do that?
Well, one of the things that I did, if we continue with the scenario of my dad, one of the things that I would do is I would literally tap out at his house.
Okay.
I would tap out.
So
with
what do you
him.
mean tap out? Just meditate for
when
an
you
hour?
need a
Okay.
break.
Okay.
When you feel like you're overwhelmed. And I want to say this: when he was at home, it was a little better. There were times that he was in and out of nursing homes for care, and during those times, the workers they just closed their eyes to the rules for me, because I think they kind of understood it. Because I'm running group homes, 24-hour group homes. I'm coming home, taking care of the kids, taking care of the house. Then I'm running up there. There were times I wasn't getting up to see him until midnight. So midnight, here I am coming through the front door, and the security guard would kind of look over and he would just turn his head because he knew I was coming to see my dad. The nurses would look up and see me coming through, and they would just put their heads back down because they understood. They saw it. On the weekends, they saw me up there with my kids and with my husband. And so now my husband is trying to hold down the house while I'm trying to hold down my dad's house. So we've got all of that, all of those elements going on. But I learned to tap out while I was with him. I learned to create space in our time together that we could just relax, that I could talk to him, and we could just, we could be honest with one another. I know one of the things that he would say to me is, I wish you could just move up here. Do you mind if your husband would just let you move up here and stay with me? I said, I think I do that. I think he would mind if I moved out of the house.
Yeah. And you know why that happened? It plays a role in your dad's dignity. He saw the sacrifice that you were making every day or every week or whatever, and he felt sorry that you had to do that for him, that you didn't have any other options at that time.
Right.
And so then, they start feeling...
And I didn't want him to walk with guilt, because what I was doing...
There's something you can do about that. It is part of the process, what a person feels. And I did the same thing for my husband when he had rotator cuff surgery. It's a look in their eye, and they'll lie to you and say, oh, no, everything's fine, whatever. But they feel sorry for you that you have to do those things for them. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah. And it probably was. He probably, but we were honest with one another. We would talk about it, and we would laugh together. We would spend time, just engaging with one another. So it wasn't always moments of work. So it wasn't, okay, I'm here and it's time to work. It's time to clean up. It's time to wipe down. There would be times that I would come in and just toss my bag, and we would sit down, and he'd say, you tired? I am wiped out. And he'd say, oh, you know what, then don't worry about cooking. I said, okay, I'll cook something, but let's just watch a movie or two.
Order out.
And
she probably dozed off and didn't even know it.
and I had two sisters. I have two. Yeah, I have two sisters, and they, at the time I had two sisters, and they, and on the weekend, I would kind of say to them, can you go check on Dad this weekend? So then that kind of freed me up from going on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday.
Nice.
And, those would be the days I could invest more, with my own kids. It's very important to have somebody that you can kind of tap out to. The other thing is, what are you doing when you're not working? And I know so many people say, that there is
when
no
is that?
when. Right. And my little joke about that is, okay, I'll take care of this when I have nothing else to do between the hours of 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. because there's no other time. But it's about creating those moments. It is about using the resources around you, and it may be your young children, having your young children to help to pick up around the house. I am one of those people that choose to clean my own house. I don't feel like anybody else can clean my house the way that I do. And, so it's about being able to delegate even to your children. Come on, let me show you how to clean your room. And then doing it together, peeping in and seeing how they're doing in their room while you're taking care of other things. It's about going out and getting your hair and your nails done. Taking the time to do those. It's about going and getting ice cream from the local Dairy Queen after dinner.
How about a 90-minute massage?
That sounds lovely.
That would be my thing. I would tap out.
Yeah, it is about taking advantage of opportunities to tap out just to invest in you. And, if you're in a place where you may say, well, those are luxury items, because between financing my home and financing my parents' home right now and what they need and their, home health aid, I don't have money to go get my hair done or go get massages. Well, go buy a nail polish and polish your own nails. Take the time to to look at movies that you enjoy. Laugh out loud. I say it all the time. You've got to laugh out. We look at funny movies. How often can you, and truthfully, like, we'll look at funny stuff, but we don't laugh out loud. We just sit. We're enjoying it. It's funny, but we're not laughing out loud. Make yourself laugh out loud. Open your mouth and laugh when it becomes funny. And it is addictive when you begin to laugh out loud, when you begin to put that energy out, and your whole body begins to feel so good when you laugh out loud.
It does. When you have a good laugh from the belly up and the tears are flowing, I like that. I do that. So when you were talking about some of the caregivers, when you were talking, I was listening, and I didn't look at a caregiver in all the different areas that you mentioned. That really opened my eyes, because I do long-term care. I advocate for seniors, and I have not a one-track mind, but it's mostly on seniors. And that's, I feel like, we're getting old, and that's when, our bodies are frail and you're going to need some help. But, there's a lot of folks that are not seniors, like disabled folks that also need that type of care. So, and the caregiver, I'm looking at like you. The caregiver to me is the person that's always doing and giving, and I didn't even think about tapping out or anything like that. And in my business, the caregiver always gets more sick than the person that needs it if they're not getting that professional help or that relief or that break, or have a professional caregiver come in, like you were paying for somebody for your dad for 4 hours so that you could go to the store. I actually had a client's husband and wife. The wife had a stroke, and the husband had to do everything for her, took care of her, and it was over a period of time, I want to say 2 years. And so when I came by, it would give him a break to go out for an hour, and I couldn't leave until he got back. So there are people that cannot afford, like you said, not only to not go and get their nails done, it's expensive.
It is.
So that's why it's important to plan ahead if you're able to. You want to take, if you have a nest egg and you want to protect it, because it's really expensive, you want to at least have that conversation. Because when it happens, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. Your whole life will be turned upside down. It's pretty catastrophic.
Yeah.
And no one, if you don't have a plan for it, like I said, you're just, everybody's going to be in disarray. You're going to be like, oh my God, what do we do? Who's going to, I can't afford to quit my job. I can't leave my husband, or I got 3 kids, or, you know, you're going to have your own whole life going.
Yeah, and you are totally on point with that, because what happens when someone in your family is faced with a terminal illness out of nowhere, and now you have the responsibility of caring for them?
Financial, physical, and it just, you know, there's so many different ways.
Yeah, and you know, just again, being transparent, and you know, my sister as well, she passed away at a young age, but she had 2 kids, and I remember she didn't, you know, again, I live in Connecticut and she lived in Brooklyn, and it was very hard because my mother came to be her caregiver, but there was a point that my mother had to go back home. And so now it was between myself and my sister, and it was hard.
Yeah.
Because when as she went closer and closer to the later stages, you know, she couldn't take care of herself, and she had 2 young kids, and here we are just coming by to kind of show up for a little while, and then we've got to go back, you know, and we're leaving her knowing that she's unable to care for her children in this state. You know, it's heart-wrenching. It's
Oh my goodness, I know.
unbearable. Yeah, and then what do you do?
Yep. So I would recommend that everybody sit down with your family and have a conversation. And no matter what your age is, 40, 30, 20, have a backup plan. Anytime that you can have, even if it's a partial backup plan. Once you have that in place, it gives you a sense of security and relief, I guess.
Yeah,
To do
and
that.
make sure that you always, even if you're a mom of a new baby, you're a caregiver, make sure that you take care of yourself, because you'll be unable to take care of others if you do not take the time that you need to take care of yourself.
Exactly. So we have about, 30 seconds left? So I'm going to say the best way to protect yourself is insurance. Okay? That would be my 2 cents. And I want to thank you, Dr. Sanji, for
thank
coming
you.
on
Thank
and
you.
sharing all this wonderful information about caregiving. I learn a lot every time I'm with this woman. So thank you, and thank you, audience, for joining us. This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show, and we're on your side.